The courtroom fell silent as Judge Andrew H. Stones let out a sharp, unexpected laugh that echoed off the polished wooden walls, cutting through the tension like a knife. All eyes turned to the bench where the stern, bespectacled judge sat, his usually composed demeanor replaced by a rare moment of amusement. Before him stood John Kennedy Crockett, a wiry man in his late 40s with weathered hands and a nervous twitch in his jaw, clutching a crumpled stack of papers as if they were his last lifeline. The gallery buzzed with whispers, some amused, others curious, as John, a small-town mechanic with no legal training, had just finished presenting his case, a desperate plea to save his family's auto shop from foreclosure. The judge's laughter seemed to mock the man's earnestness, and for a moment it felt like the weight of the world had crashed down on John's shoulders. But what happened next would leave everyone in that room stunned, rewriting the narrative of justice in ways no one could have predicted. John had grown up in the shadow of Crockett's Auto Repair, a modest garage his grandfather built with calloused hands and a dream of providing for his family. It was more than a business, it was a legacy, a place where laughter mingled with the scent of oil and where John learned the value of hard work at his father's knee. But life had a way of testing that legacy. After his father's sudden heart attack 2 years ago, John took over, pouring every ounce of himself into keeping the shop alive. Bills piled up, customers dwindled, and the bank, led by a cold-hearted loan officer named Mr. Hargrove, began circling like vultures. When the foreclosure notice arrived, John's world shattered. His wife, Maria, a gentle soul who worked part-time, at the local diner tried to hold the family together, comforting their teenage daughter, Lily, who dreamed of college but now faced the possibility of losing everything. John refused to give up. With no money for a lawyer, he turned to the law library, teaching himself the basics of legal procedure, driven by a love for his family and a stubborn refusal to let his father's memory fade. The day of the hearing arrived, and John stood before Judge Stones, a man known for his no-nonsense approach and sharp intellect. The judge's reputation preceded him. Decades on the bench had earned him respect, but also a certain aloofness that made him seem untouchable. John's case was a long shot. The bank's legal team, polished and confident, presented a mountain of paperwork proving his default. John, voice trembling but resolute, argued that the bank had misrepresented the loan terms, citing late-night discoveries in dusty legal texts. He produced his evidence, a series of letters and a contract with fine print he believed proved their deceit. As he stumbled through his explanation, the judge's laughter erupted, a sound that seemed to confirm the hopelessness of John's fight. The gallery tittered, and John's face flushed with humiliation. Maria, sitting in the back, gripped Lily's hand, her eyes brimming with tears, while John felt the sting of defeat creeping in. But then, something shifted. Judge Stones, still chuckling, leaned forward, adjusting his glasses as if seeing John for the first time. "Mr. Crockett," he said, his tone softening, "you've got guts, I'll give you that. But this court isn't a classroom for self-taught law." The room held its breath as John nodded, swallowing hard. Instead of dismissing the case, the judge surprised everyone by requesting a recess. He took John's papers, his expression, unreadable, and disappeared into his chambers. The wait was agonizing. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Maria whispered prayers under her breath, and Lily clung to her mother, her young face etched with worry. John sat alone, staring at the floor, replaying every mistake, every late payment, every moment he'd failed to protect his family. When Judge Stones returned, the courtroom was packed with anticipation. He cleared his throat, his voice steady, but carrying an unusual warmth. "After reviewing Mr. Crockett's evidence," he began, "I've found discrepancies in the bank's documentation. The loan terms were indeed misrepresented, and the foreclosure process was initiated prematurely." A collective gasp rippled through the room. The bank's attorney protested, but the judge raised a hand, silencing him. "This court will not uphold an injustice based on fine print and bad faith," he declared. He ordered an investigation into the bank's practices and temporarily halted the foreclosure, giving John time to stabilize his business. The gavel came down, and the room erupted in murmurs of disbelief and admiration. For John, the victory was bittersweet. The road ahead was still uncertain. Repairs were needed, customers had to be won back, and the family's savings were nearly gone. But that day in court ignited a spark of hope. With the judge's ruling, John secured a small loan from a local credit union, moved by his story, and began rebuilding. Maria took on extra shifts, and Lily, inspired by her father's courage, started a crowdfunding campaign that brought in donations from the community. Judge Stones, moved by John's determination, even visited the shop one afternoon, offering pro bono advice on managing the business. The once distant judge became a mentor, his laughter now a sign of encouragement rather than mockery. Months later, Crockett's Auto Repair stood stronger than ever, its sign freshly painted, its lot buzzing with cars. John stood in the garage, wiping sweat from his brow, watching Maria and Lily laugh as they handed out flyers for a grand reopening. The challenges hadn't disappeared, money was tight, and the bank's appeal loomed, but the family had found a new resilience. Judge Stone's unexpected decision had not only saved their livelihood, but also reminded them of the power of perseverance and community. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the shop, John felt a surge of gratitude. The message was clear. Even in the darkest moments, a single act of fairness could light the way, inspiring others to stand up and fight for what matters most.